industrial West.
Canada is involved in Indonesia because it's a particularly good place to go if you want no unions to worry about, workers who are treated very badly, workers whom you don't have to pay a great deal of money to, and an army to back up a no-strike situation. What happened in 1965 was that there was a right-wing coup which was headed by General Suharto, who has ever since been the president of Indonesia. In the aftermath of the coup, at least, according to CIA statistics, 700,000 people were killed. The estimate actually goes above 1 million if you go to Amnesty International. In the aftermath of that, naturally the population was terrorized, all the effective unions were smashed, and it became a perfect investment climate for countries like Canada.
I would like to draw honourable members' attention to the presence in the gallery today of His Excellency Dr. Mokhtar Kussumadharmaja, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Honourable Member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State for External Affairs knows that Canada has allotted $300 million in aid through CEDA to Indonesia over a 5-year period. And in fact, that represents the 4th largest Canadian program of aid in all of Asia. How can this government continue to ignore the fact that Indonesia has invaded East Timor with 40,000 troops and is conducting Operation Extinction, which is tantamount to genocide? What kind of representations will this Secretary of State of Canada for Foreign Affairs make to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mokhtar, who is in fact right here in Ottawa at the present time?
Mr. Speaker, I trust that the Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition is embarrassed by this kind of grandstanding.
Hear, hear.
He says no. He says he isn't, Mr. Speaker, which speaks volumes of his judgment.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member is considerably out of date with his accusations with regard to East Timor. I have, in fact, discussed the matter with Dr. Mokhtar during my visit to Indonesia in 1985. At our suggestion, the Canadian ambassador in Indonesia was invited to visit East Timor to see conditions for himself. He believes that the arguments that have been made by various groups are exaggerated. I'm sure that I speak for the government of Indonesia in indicating that they would be prepared to welcome the honourable member to come and see for himself. That would be a change in the basis of his representations in this House if they were based on fact.
What in fact happened, just the essence of it, is that in 1975 the Indonesian government attacked the neighboring island of Timor, East Timor, which had been a Portuguese colony. They had never laid any claim to it, had no claim to it, nor did any international, is there any basis in international law or elsewhere for such a claim. In the course of this attack, which has now been going on for 12 years, in the first stages of it, there was in fact a very large-scale massacre. By 1977, the Indonesian army had actually run out of arms, depleted its arms supplies. In the course of this aggression, the Carter administration at that point took a little time off from its passionate rhetoric about its concern for human rights so as to significantly escalate the arms flow to Indonesia to enable it to consummate the slaughter. The major massacres, in which perhaps several 100,000 people were killed out of a population of 700,000 initially, they took place after the Carter administration increased the arms flow to Indonesia with the conscious knowledge that this would be the consequence. That's when the remnants of the population which had fled to the hills were driven down to Indonesian-run concentration camps and so on. Meanwhile, Canada was also, the Canadian media, for example, were totally silent about all of this. The Canadian government has simply officially endorsed the most ludicrous Indonesian propaganda about the Timorese requesting Indonesia to intervene, to annex them to Indonesia, and so on. And meanwhile, of course, Canadian corporations are enriching themselves by, not in Timor, which is too small to be of interest to them, but in Indonesia, where Canada is the major Western investor and therefore extremely supportive of Indonesian atrocities, aggression, and brutality.